When you've been in a toxic relationship for such a long period of time, you get used to elevating the narcissist. You get used to elevating the toxic person. Why? Because all hell's going to break loose if you don't. Like, if you don't make him feel like he's the best person ever, if you don't give him the entitlement that he deserves, if you don't make sure he feels the admiration, if you don't give all this stuff to the narcissist, like, you're in trouble, right? So this is piece that happens inside toxic relationships that you have to learn how to elevate the other person and de-elevate, devalue yourself. Now, many of you have already seen this inside the relationship where he's devalued you. He's put you down for what you wear, for how you look, for your weight, for your hair, for all different kinds of things. So he typically puts you down. And he's doing this to make sure you're subservient to him. But he's also doing this to make himself feel better about himself. Like, how does that even make sense? We're totally different people. Yeah, he doesn't really care. Okay, all he cares about is himself. He cares about how do I look, how do I feel, how do I act, and, oh, you're shining too bright. Let's kind of push that down a little bit so I can feel better about myself. Okay, I want you to think through this concept of when we're talking about the value of you and another person. Now, we're not stepping into the worth of, like, this person's worth so much, this person's not worth so much. We're not putting a price value, okay? We're talking about how you value other people or how other people value you. So if the other person's valuing you, it's like, hey, how does he actually love, care, respect, treat you? How does he deal with your emotions, your feelings? How does he create space for you, okay? Same idea. All right, but when we talk through this piece of, like, value, I want you to consider it in the aspect of it being like a seesaw. So we're going to draw this out here, and I want you to think of it being like a seesaw. So let's say there's this relationship, and you are on one side, and he is on the other side. Okay? And so as we're doing this, the whole aspect that he's going to be looking at is like, hey, I want to make sure that my value goes up, that I feel better about myself, that you respect me, that it's all focused on how I'm getting better. And so as a result, he's like, I need to make sure that I push you down, that I make you feel less than, that I make you feel like you're not worth it. And so this idea of, like, hey, he's going to want to make sure that he values himself and that he devalues you. Okay? You seeing this? So if we take this illustration a little bit farther, what's happening inside the relationship is this. Let's see if I can do it. There we go. All right, what it's doing is, here he is, and he's like, hey, this is awesome. I feel valued because all the focus is on me. Okay? He's like, you're only focused on me. This is all that's actually happening, so this feels great. Now, the thing is, you were down over here, and you're at this place where you're devalued, and you're like, oh, I don't get to have any of the focus. There's no time for me. There's no attention to me. There's no openness for my feelings or anything like this. Now, it's interesting because you end up doing this on your own as well. So, like, consider for a moment, it's like he valued you, then he devalues you, okay? But then consider this for a moment too. This is also the person that you were saying yes to. And you're saying no to yourself. You're saying, yes, I'll focus on you. Yes, I'll give you my time and attention. Yes, yes, yes. And then you all of a sudden kind of sit back and you're like, wait a second. Like, he's never said yes to me. Like, I've given up my hopes, my dreams. I stopped my career. I came home and I'm a single mom. I stopped moving forward in my business. Like, I gave up all these different things because he sold me a dream that said he was going to be this amazing person, that he was going to show up this way, that he was going to be this helpful. And what happened was the exact opposite. And instead, I'm left, all I've been doing is I've been saying no to myself and I've been saying yes to him. Over and over and over again. So you have to cut off your feelings. You have to cut off your emotions. You can't feel, you can't experience, you can't do the things you want to do. Why? Because you have to say yes to him. You have to put him up on the pedestal of his own ego. The pedestal of how he wants to be, of how he wants to appear. And so this has happened over and over and over in the relationship. And as a result, you keep getting less and less and less, so you don't even exist anymore. And you feel like you don't even exist. You're a shell of a person. You don't have your confidence. You don't have any self-esteem, self-worth. Like, you feel like there is no value to you at all. Because the entire time of the relationship, it's been all focused on him. It's been saying yes to him, yes to him, yes to him, and saying in turn, no to you. Now, here's the hard part. Because you're like, well, I've done this for such a long period of time. Now the relationship's coming to a close. Now the relationship's over either way. And you're like, I don't know how to actually say yes to myself. And this is hard. You've been trained to operate the opposite way. And what happens is as we draw this out again on the flip side, there's this piece here where you're like, I don't know, because if he's over here, I'm afraid to say no. There's this piece that you're worried about it. How's he going to react? Maybe he's not going to love me anymore if I say no. Maybe he's not going to care about me. Maybe he's going to leave me. Maybe he's going to do all these things. And you end up having to focus so much on the negative. You're like, I'm worried that if I say no, all hell's going to break loose. And you're just like, I can't do it. I'm just not going to do it. I'll just say yes. I'll go back to the other model. I'll just say yes. That works out best. What are my feelings? It doesn't really matter. Like, I'll just shove this to the side. And you go back to the shell of a person you used to be. Stuck in the toxicity, a slave to the toxic person, and no longer moving forward, growing, changing, developing. But what if it was different? Like, what if instead of it being you just focusing on the no to him, what if you just learned how to actually say yes to you? Like, what if this was different, where instead of you be focusing on the no, you actually started to focus on the yes? You probably are at the place where you say yes to a lot of different people, probably to him, probably to other people in your life, but you never say yes to you. What if we flipped the script? Like, what if we actually said, hey, instead of saying no to all these other people, just say yes to you? You're like, I don't even know how to do that. I get it. But I want to expand your thought process first off before we give you some practical steps. Because if we don't expand it, then you're just going to like stretch back and you'll be like, nope, can't do that. Let me just say yes to everybody else. And we'll keep going through the same cycle over and over and over again. You're going to stay stuck in the toxic relationship because you're unwilling to actually say yes to the main person that matters, to you. And as a result, you're just pouring into the toxic person's life over and over and over again, not realizing that the cup that you're pouring to the narcissist's life and to your kids and to your family and to your friends is empty. Because you haven't actually invested into you. Sometimes people get this all skewed up and they're like, wait a second, like that sounds like narcissism because I'm focusing on myself. That's what you're meant to think so that you stay stuck with a toxic person. You're like, it sounds selfish because I'm focusing on myself. That's meant to be that way so that you stay stuck to a toxic person. Like, I want you to consider, like, you can't invest in someone else if you're not investing in you. Too many of you watching this today have this completely backwards. And as a result, you're like, but I'm trying to get my kids help. That's great, but it won't do anything if you're not helped. But I'm trying to get my kids into therapy so they can work on controlling their emotions. That's great, but if you don't learn how to control your emotions, it won't even matter. All the therapy in the world won't help fix them if you're not actually leading by example. But I'm trying to do this so I can actually accelerate and work. And if I focus on me, I won't have time to focus on work. If you don't focus on your work, your work will eventually crumple. Because you will be a shell of the person that you're called to be, focusing on small things and not actually on the big things that transform your life. Which that big thing that transforms your life, that's you. It's how you show up for you on a day-to-day basis. So what if we actually flip the script on this and instead of being afraid to say no to a toxic person, you actually started to say yes to yourself? What does this look like? What does it actually mean? One thing that we coach everybody on oftentimes is this. Get a schedule. Many of you don't have a schedule. You're living life haphazard. Many of you have a schedule and you're only focused on the other person in your schedule. Totally get it. I'm just saying, wherever you are, make sure you actually get a schedule. If you don't have a schedule, get a schedule. If it needs to be paper, perfect. If it's going to be digital, perfect. You can set reminders so you actually remind yourself to keep your schedule. Otherwise, you'll just keep putting it off. The real thing is actually get a schedule. Sit down, make a schedule. Say, I'm going to actually live and have a schedule. Like, well, I don't like that. I just like going by the flow. Okay, then understand that your healing is going to go by the flow and it's not going to happen. I'm saying it this way because I need you to wake up. You're not going to magically get healed by you just going by the flow. You need to actually get a schedule. And then the thing you need to understand is you need to put you on the schedule. You're like, huh? What is he talking about? I need you to understand, I can tell how much time you invest in you. I can tell what your focus is by just looking at your schedule. So you have a schedule, and then I take a look at it and I'm like, where is you? Like, there's no time for you to be able to spend time with yourself. There's no time for you to invest in your healing. There's no time for you to actually grow your mindset. There's no time for you to show up for yourself physically at the gym. There's no time for you to be able to spend time doing the things you need to do to heal and grow and change and develop who you are. Easy. I can just tell by looking at your schedule. So first thing is get a schedule, and second thing is put you on the schedule. Third thing, say yes to you. You're like, wait a second, what does this look like? Okay, when you put something on the schedule, you're saying yes to you. Now, when you get to this, then you're not telling other people a bunch of no's. Sometimes it might be, hey, it's a rain check. But instead, you can actually tell someone, hey, I'm sorry, I have an appointment. Sorry, I already have something planned. And you're like, what? You do that? Yeah. So like when I have to do something, let's say early in the morning, I can be like, sorry, I can do it after this time because I have this time set for working out. I have this time set for stacking. I have this time set for meditating. You're not going to mess with that. Because I know what I need to do to work on myself. The question is, do you? Here's a couple simple tips. 1, get a schedule. 2, put yourself on the schedule. And then 3, say yes to you. If you want to know how we do this to a greater and a deeper level, go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough today.